What's up guys, my name's Brandon and today Apple released iOS 17.1 Beta 3 to registered developers and soon for public beta testers. Now along with this release, Apple also dropped the third beta for iPadOS 17.1, watchOS 10.1, macOS Sonoma 14.1, tvOS 17.1, and HomePod version 17.1. But of course this video is all about iOS 17.1 Beta 3, and you can see the size of this update came in at 639 megabytes on my iPhone 15 Pro Max. Let's go ahead and check out the build number for this new version. Our settings general about 21B5066A is the new build number. So we do have an A at the end of the build, which indicates we could see the RC version of 17.1 as early as next week. But we'll talk more about that near the end of this video. And then the modem firmware on this update is 1.12.00. All right, so now what's new here in iOS 17.1 Beta 3? And the first thing I want to talk about is the overheating issue that was resolved with iOS 17.0.3, the public release. So I would assume that that same fix that, dropped the temperature pretty much of all of our devices to improve battery life and reduce heat output has most likely been put here in iOS 17.1 Beta 3. Now this update does also fix the radiation issue that caused the iPhone 12 specifically to be banned in France. So Apple actually published a new support document today, and it shows that 17.1 will be the update to fix that radiation issue, and it kind of just reiterates that the iPhone 12 is and always has been safe to use. This basically just had to do with the regulations in France. That was the reason it was only banned in France and nowhere else. And the way that Apple said they're going to fix this with iOS 17.1 is they're going to reduce power when off body on a static surface. So it says that the iPhone 12 will no longer increase the allowed power when the off-body state is detected, such as while it's sitting on a table. And it says, as such, in coverage areas where cell signal is low, this change in antenna transmit power may result in slightly lower cellular performance in certain off-body use cases. The vast majority of users are not expected to notice any impact. So this is only going to impact a small amount of people, but it is a pretty important update because the whole iPhone 12 being banned in France issue made national headlines last week and previous weeks as well. So 17.1 is going to be the update. Apple is not going to push out a 17.0.4 just for this, it seems. That was really the only reason I could see Apple pushing out a 17.0.4 was to fix this issue, but now we know this is coming in 17.1. Now somebody on X did reach out and send me this screenshot that shows their Discover card in the Apple Wallet settings, and it shows the complete transaction history and the available credit limit for the month. So I guess that was not there previously, but that appears to be there now in 17.1 Beta 3. There's also a change to the behavior of the action button when it's in your pocket. So if you have a 15 Pro or Pro Max, you're going to notice that now when it's in your pocket, you have to press and hold on the action button longer in order for the action to trigger. So basically this is just to try to reduce the amount of unintentional presses on that action button. Now we do also have some interesting tidbits in the release notes for 17.1 Beta 3, because if we look here, we can see that the wallet actually has a known issue, and it says that the wallet app might crash on launch for users on iOS 17.1 Beta 1 and 2 once Beta 3 is released. So I have iOS 17.1 Beta 2 running here on my other iPhone 15 Pro Max, my main device, and it did not crash. So this could be an issue, and if you are facing that, just simply update your device to 17.1 Beta 3. But that's a pretty strange known issue there. I've not seen that one before. And the other two known issues related to Wallet and Apple Pay do also have workarounds there as well. Now something else I want to point out here is related to power, and this one's interesting because it says that 17.1 Beta 3 has fixed the battery drain bug that a lot of you guys had issues with. So it says, fixed. Increased power consumption might occur when an Apple Watch running watchOS 10.1 is paired with an iPhone running iOS 17.0 or vice versa. So I know a lot of you guys had issues when running watchOS 10.0 on a iPhone running iOS 17.1. So if you had battery drain issues when your watch and your iPhone were not on the same level of software. That has been fixed here with this third beta. And then there is also a known issue related to cinematic mode in the camera. So it says repeatedly entering cinematic mode or switching between front-facing and rear-facing captures in cinematic mode on the 15 and 15 Pro specifically might cause the preview to freeze for a couple of seconds. And of course, we do not have the journal app here in 17.1 beta 3. As I mentioned, I would not expect that until 17.2. And also the battery cycle count and also the charging to 80%, both of those are still only iPhone 15 exclusives. They are not available on other devices, and I don't see that happening at all. However, I will say that I no longer have the crash in the music application when I go to songs and then I go to filter and filter it by my favorited songs. So for whatever reason on beta 2, on 17.1 beta 2, my device, my music application would crash every single time that I would filter this by favorites. And it was only for songs. It didn't happen for artists, playlists, or albums. It was only in songs, but it looks like that has been fixed here in beta 3. And then if you still did not have your custom ringtones reappear in beta 2, like some of you reported, those should be here in beta 3. As you can see, my custom ones are right here up top, and they will also show up for your text tones if you go down to text tone here. Now, I did also want to mention that a new AirPods Pro 2 firmware was pushed out today as well. And this is going to be a official firmware, not a beta firmware. And the version number is 6A303. So if you do have the AirPods Pro 2, if you go into your settings here and then go into your AirPods and then go down to the bottom, you will see that I'm still on 6A301, but 6A303 is the new one. So you should see that update roll out to your device today, as long as you are charging your AirPods and they're next to your iPhone. As far as the performance and battery life goes, I did just run a Geekbench 6 test and we scored a 2916 on the single core and a 7295 on the multi-core. And you can see how that compares to previous tests right there. So it is a little bit lower on both the single core and on the multi-core. But again, this is after a fresh install, and I will run this again in a few days just to see what the actual score is after it's done re-indexing everything. But performance so far feels about the same. I mean, I really can't tell a difference between this update and the previous updates. However, I will say that even after running that Geekbench test, my device is not as hot as it was previously on previous beta. So that again reiterates my theory that Apple did implement the fix that they put in 17.0.3 to reduce the amount of heat output coming from the device. And for that reason alone, I think that we could see an increase in battery life here with 17.1 beta 3. So don't expect any major changes, but especially, battery does tend to drain when your device is hot. So for that reason, I would expect to see a slight bump in battery life compared to previous betas. All right, so now let's talk about what to expect next from Apple. So there's pretty much two different scenarios. There's two ways that this 17.1 release can go down. So let's start with scenario 1. So scenario 1 is when we see beta 4 next week. So iOS 17.1 beta 4, most likely on the 17th. And if we do get a beta 4, then we're going to see the RC on the week of the 23rd, and then a final release of 17.1 on the week of the 30th, most likely right there on the 30th, since Apple themselves have said that 17.1 is coming in October. Now, scenario 2 is that since we have an A at the end of the build number for this third beta, we could see an RC as early as next week. So we could also see an RC on the 17th. And if we do get an RC instead of a beta 4, that means that the final will be the following week, most likely on the 23rd or the week of the 23rd. So those are the two scenarios, but whichever one happens, we are going to see 17.1 most likely before the end of the month, before Halloween there. And then for those wondering about the iOS 17.2 betas, we should see those later the same week as 17.1 final gets released, or the following week. I would expect to see beta 1 within 2 weeks of that 17.1 release. But yeah, that's what to expect next. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Of course, not really a ton going on here, not like what we saw in beta 1 and beta 2, but we still do have a few much needed changes, mostly things that are happening on the back end. But if you guys enjoyed this video, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe for more iOS 17 beta coverage. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.